NFL pass catchers are the headliners of today's NFL. Everyone wants a high powered offense to be able to carry their team into the playoffs and win a Super Bowl. Today, we're going to take a look at how all the 32 teams stack up for next season. Now, starting us off with the disclaimer, I did not include any running backs in this list. It's just wide receivers and tight ends. Running backs will have an entirely separate list that we will do next week. But without further ado, let's get started. The Buffalo Bills will lead us off. Shakir Coleman, they signed Palmer in free agency. They have Samuel, Elijah Moore, Chanel Jr., and then Knox, Kincaid, and Haas. Okay, so this is a good tight end room and a deep receiver room. They don't have a top level receiver. Shakir is a good slot receiver. Coleman needs to take a step forward in his second year. Josh Palmer had a decent season for the Chargers, coming over trying to fill that like Gabe Davis type role in that offense. Knox and Kincaid are a good two tight end set. I think I like their depth, which is an interesting thing to start us off with because there's no star guy to be like, oh, well, this will easily push them higher, but they probably have one of the deeper rooms. Do I keep them here at perfectly average or do I push them higher? I know a lot of what they do on offense runs through Josh Allen. I'm going to keep them here because of their lack of a true number one and because Palmer's coming in through free agency. Yeah. Okay. All right. Miami Dolphins. What are we looking at? Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Westbrook Akina. They signed from the Titans. Malik Washington, D. Eskridge from the Seahawks. Johnny Smith, Joan Hill. Okay, so the big thing to look at here is Hill had a down season last year. Johnny Smith on the trade block, but he is still a Dolphin right now. Okay. I think elite skills is a good place to put them. The speed that Hill and Waddle provide is unmatched in the NFL, but they also don't. With Hill having a down year, Waddle showing some injuries, some of that was attributed to Tua not playing the full year. Johnny Smith had a good year. Yeah, I liked him at elite skills on the backs of Hill and Waddle's speed. All right, New England Patriots. And whatever is going on with Stephon Diggs right now, Demario Douglas was a good slot receiver for them. They drafted Kyle Williams, Kayshon Boutte, Mac Hollins from the Bills last season, Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, Jaheim Bell. Okay, so I'm going to put them here next to the Bills at perfectly average. This does sort of hinge on whether they keep Diggs or not. I think I'd probably drop them to needs more talent if they did cut Diggs, but because they currently have Diggs on roster, I'm going to keep them there. They have decent tight ends. Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper are a good 1-2 punch at tight end. That's not anything to like cry about out there, despite their perceived lack of talent at receiver. Signing Diggs, drafting Williams, signing Hollins is all boosts. They keep Bourne. Boutte flashed last year, and Demario Douglas, as the top guy last year, had a good year. Now he gets to be a 2 or a 3. That'll help him. So, yeah. All right, perfectly average. I like that. New York Jets. Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, Josh Reynolds, Malachi Corley, Tyler Johnson. They drafted Mason Taylor to be their tight end. Okay. I'm going to be honest. I don't love this group. They let Tyler Conklin go at tight end. They let Devontae Adams go at receiver. I like Garrett Wilson to a point. I think I'm going to put them here in perfectly average, in between the Patriots and the Bills. I don't love the depth. Everything hinges on a second or a third round rookie tight end at the tight end position. And I just don't like the way that looks. So I think I'm good with that there. All right, AFC North, Baltimore Ravens. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, DeAndre Hopkins, Tylan Wallace, Devontae Walker, LeJounte Wester, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kohler. Okay, so they're definitely above the Dolphins. I am not the biggest Zay Flowers fan. I think he's a good receiver. He's got a lot of talent, but he does disappear at times. Whether that's the Ravens scheming it or just the fact that he's a 5'9" receiver. He will have games where he just doesn't show up. Rashad Bateman's a great number 2. Signing Hopkins will help on the outside as well. But he did show signs of slowing down as he's now into his 30s. Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, is a really good tight end group. Yeah, I think elite skills right above the Dolphins is a good place to put them for now. Okay. Moving on to the Bengals, Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins, Andre Isuvash, Jermaine Burton, Mike Gesicki. Okay. First team and try and stop us. This is arguably the best 1-2 punch in the league. Signing Mike Gesicki last offseason from I believe it was away from the Patriots after he went there from the Dolphins, was a huge addition to their passing attack. And Isuvash showed some flashes. Burton was expected to be the guy to be their number 3, but Isuvash has kind of stepped up and taken that from him. So it's a good group. What else can you say about Ja'Marr Chase other than the fact that he Triple Crown winner last season? He's like 24, 25 years old, and his rapport with Joe Burrow is unmatched. All right, moving on to the Cleveland Browns. There we go. Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, Deontay Johnson, David Bell, Jamari Thrash, Michael Woods, David Njoku, Harold Fanning Jr., Blake Whiteheart. Okay, so I'm going to expect the Browns to run a lot of maybe like 22 personnel, 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets after drafting Fannin when they have Njoku. Signing Deontay Johnson is kind of like a wild card. Tillman and Jeudy Jeudy had a good season last year. Tillman had a decent season last year, but I still think I'm going to put them at needs more talent. I don't like the depth in the receiver room. Njoku has injury potential, so does Tillman. And I still want to see more from Jerry Jeudy to be a true number 1 guy. I want to see it more than just was it like half the season last year that he was able to do it. So yeah, all right. Pittsburgh Steelers, where are we at? Where are the Steelers? There they are. DK Metcalf, Robert Woods, Calvin Austin III, Roman Wilson, Scotty Miller, Skowronek, Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington. Okay, so I'm gonna put them right in front of the Jets. They're similar to the Jets, except for the fact that Freiermuth is more established, but Metcalf is their first year having Metcalf in their system, replacing George Pickens, who was traded to the Cowboys. I don't love Robert Woods at this point in his career. Calvin Austin III is really just a deep threat. Roman Wilson didn't show anything last season. Darnell Washington's a good number 2 tight end, so I'll give them that. But I still think the overall talent the Bills have is better than what the Steelers have, so I'm going to keep them there. Moving on to the AFC South. Now, this is one of the more interesting teams when I was putting together the depth charts. The pure depth of talent on the Texans receiving core is immense. Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, Tank Dell, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, John Mechie the third, Dalton Schultz, Brevin Jordan, and Cade Stover. So Tank Dell needs to stay healthy. Christian Kirk needs to stay healthy. Higgins and Noel are both rookies, so it's really hard for me to put them anything higher than elite skills. I am going to put them above the Dolphins. It's when looking at putting them potentially above the Ravens, it's hard to think how injury plays a role in this. Nico Collins had injuries last season too. I believe the whole reason they basically drafted Higgins to play across from Collins and Noel to supplant Dell if he gets hurt. So, signing Christian Kirk is a nice addition as well. Dalton Schultz is a good tight end. Brevin Jordan's a pretty decent tight end too. But I think the established health and numbers of the Ravens, Bateman and Flowers, with Andrews and Likely, keep them where they are. But I'm telling you, look out for the Texans next season. That's a lot of talent. They just need an offensive line. Okay. Indianapolis Colts, Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, Donnie Mitchell, Tyler Warren at tight end. Okay. I'm going to put them here. The receiver room is a lot of like 2-3s. I think Pittman with a different style of quarterback. He plays like an Anquan Bolden almost, Michael Pittman Jr. does. So he needs a lot of back shoulder fades. He's not a burner. He's a possession receiver, really good route runner, strong at the point of attack. Pierce is the burner, Downs is the slot guy, Mitchell's just the fourth receiver, and Tyler Warren could be the biggest piece of this offense, who has a rookie that's saying a lot, but he was highly regarded, and a tight end is huge for a young quarterback. If Richardson wins that job, as I expect him to, yeah, I think putting them there is good. Pittman Jr. had a down year, so it's hard to argue that he's a better top target than DK Metcalf, but Metcalf had the Flowers situation where Metcalf would just disappear for some games. So interesting to see if that follows him to Pittsburgh. All right, Jacksonville Jaguars. Brian Thomas Jr. had a great rookie year. Travis Hunter playing both ways. Dyami Brown was a nice addition in free agency from the Commanders. Washington Cephas Trammell. Brenton Strange did flash at tight end, taking over the number one spot. Not a lot of depth. I think I'm going to put them at the end of elite skills. I like the establishment that Hill, Waddle, and Smith have versus the really you only know what Brian Thomas is for the Jaguars. It'll be interesting to see how much reps Travis Hunter actually gets at receiver. Dyami Brown is still a okay wide receiver 2-3. And I want to see Brenton Strange do it for the full season. If he can, then great, this group can climb. If not, then they might fall a little bit. But the established abilities of Brian Thomas Jr., who look like a true number one, and then the potential of Travis Hunter does keep them out of perfectly average and into elite skills. Tennessee Titans. I feel like this might be a little harsh, but Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett, Treylon Burks, Van Jefferson. They drafted Alomar and Chigakonkwo. Okay, I'm going to put them in needs more talent. I'm going to put them below the Browns. Calvin Ridley, he did flash last year, but your top two receivers being over 30 is not a good sign. Tyler Lockett has been going down the last few seasons. If Ionomar can step up and be that number two next to Ridley, that's huge for this team. I mean, if Burks or Jefferson can do it too, that'd be great, but it's likely to be Ionomar. And then Okonkwo has looked good. He's had some injury problems, and some. He's a fast tight end. He's a little bit smaller. I believe he's only 6'3". But he does have a wide frame. an okay blocker, a better receiver, just a little underutilized in my opinion. But I do like what the Browns have better. So keep them below the Browns in needs more talent. Okay, moving on to the West, starting us off with the Denver Broncos. Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims Jr., Devon Vele, Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, they just drafted. Sherfield Sr., they signed Engram, Troutman, and Kroll. Okay, so it's interesting to see how they land. Vele, Mims, deep threats. Troy Franklin, he flashed a little bit. Sutton, much more of a possession receiver, especially now in his career. Ingram's a nice tight end to have. I think right here, Bills. Let's see. Sutton's the better number one, but yeah, I think their players are a little bit more established, despite the fact that Mims, Vele, and Franklin, and Bryant, for that matter, all very young in the league. Sutton's dealt with some injury history in the past. So is Engram, for that matter, and Troutman's a nice backup tight end, but not a starting tight end. So if Engram were to go down, they don't exactly have someone to step in and fill that exact role in the offense. Yeah, I mean, looking at it from their head coach's perspective, Sean Payton, getting Engram is huge. He's always had tight ends very involved in the offense. Sutton can be like his Colston, as he has shown. But the inconsistency that the young guys in Vele and Mims and Franklin showed, they did flash. They have a lot of speed and some height, but I don't think I can push them any higher than where they're at now and perfectly average. Okay, Kansas City Chiefs. Rashee Rice coming off injury. Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown coming off injury. Juju, they drafted Royals. They still have Sky Moore, Travis Kelce, Noah Gray. Okay, I'm going to put them in elite skills. I'm going to put them... Ooh, interesting. Okay, I'm going to put them right behind the Ravens. Rashee Rice was a big part of what they did on offense, and losing him last year, you could definitely see the effects of it. Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown do the same thing, but when they're on the field at the same time, they present a unique opportunity for a head coach like Andy Reid because they are similar in body types and skill set. I would assume that they let Brown be the receiver that he has shown he can be, and they use Worthy as more of the gadget running the jet sweeps and the motion packages a lot more. Kind of let teams sleep on Hollywood Brown, and then Smith Schuster fits out the Rashee Rice light role great. That's why they got him back last season when Rice went down. So that's nice. And then Jalen Royals can be the X receiver that this team kind of really needs. Got a lot of potential as a rookie. And then Travis Kelce is still Travis Kelce. Say what you will about whether it's his drive or whether it's his physical ability to actually separate at the NFL level. He's still going to box people out. He's still got great feel and a great connection with Mahomes, and that plays to a certain degree. What I will say about the Ravens and the Chiefs here, because Kelce is declining and Rice is coming off an injury and Brown had a heavily injured year last year, I am keeping the Ravens above them. However, if you were to ask me to choose the Chiefs or the Ravens receivers, I would choose the Chiefs. I would. I think that their potential is greater than the Ravens, but I would feel bad putting the Chiefs above the Ravens at this point before the season's even started, before we've hit training camp or anything like that. All right. Las Vegas Raiders, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, Jack Betch, Thornton Jr., Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer. Okay, so this is an interesting conversation because a lot of this is predicated on the fact that Jacoby Meyers is a decent receiver at the top of their receiver class. Trey Tucker is their slot guy, but Brock Bowers showed that he is one of the top tight ends immediately, possibly the top tight end. So how high can I make that push them? I think I am going to let that push them into elite skills. Michael Mayer is a good tight end in his own right. Brock Bowers, with essentially nothing at quarterback, was able to put up really, really, really good numbers. And there's something to be said about that, in my opinion. So, yeah, I hesitate putting them any farther because of the receiver talent. There just isn't a lot on the Raiders, and I don't think. I mean, clearly the Raiders didn't win a lot of games last season, so I don't think having a great tight end lends itself to winning as much as a great receiving room does. But we'll see. I'll keep them in elite skills, largely propped up by what Brock Bowers is as a player individually. All right, Los Angeles Chargers. Ladd McConkey, Mike Williams, Trey Harris, they just drafted. Quentin Johnston, who's been a disappointment, but had a decent year last year. Disley, Conklin. Okay, so the interesting thing here is they don't. Disley's a good tight end. Conklin's a decent tight end as well in his own right. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how this group comes together. Ladd McConkey had a really good season last year where he just got better and better. He is like he's more of a slot guy than an outside receiver. Plays a lot like a Cooper Kupp or a Wes Welker with more explosiveness, in my opinion. But as you're going to see, Mike Williams is a nice get for them, bringing him back after he was with the Jets and the Steelers. Trey Harris is an pure possession type receiver. Not going to burn you or anything like that, but they need that on the outside. I It's really just how strongly do I feel about McConkey, because the rest of the receiver room looks pretty nice. The tight ends aren't anything to complain about. I mean, that's not a great ringing endorsement for them, but still. Do they land there? Do they go into elite skills? Or do I just like the group and that's kind of. You know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to put them the top of perfectly average. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Okay, so that's the end of the AFC. Before we get into the NFC, let's take a look at the list. Okay, so we're heavily sitting in this area. Let's move the Patriots down. I think that looks a little bit better just to begin. The Patriots so much sits on the Diggs situation right now. But I don't. He is coming off injury. Do I ding it further? No, I like. Yeah, no, I'm okay with that right there. Okay, I kind of like the way everything else looks. I think I did pretty good in the first pass through. I think there's some potential that the Ravens and the Chiefs kick up. I think those are the only two teams that could kick up at this point. I mean, the Chargers could kick up as well. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there. There's a lot of talent in the NFC as well. So we'll see how it shakes out, and we'll take another look at it once the NFC is done. Starting us off, NFC East. Dallas Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Tolbert, Turpin, Mingo, Brooks, Ferguson, Schumacher. Okay. So they're sitting at the top half of elite skills. I do think potentially try and stop us. Ferguson's a good tight end. Turpin, Tolbert, Pickens, and Lamb are great 1-2s, but unproven. See, this is my problem right now, is if I put the Cowboys in try and stop us, I feel like I have to also put the Ravens and the Chiefs there. And I think that'll be a disservice. But I would prefer the Cowboys playmakers over the Ravens and the Chiefs. Okay. I'm going to keep them to try and stop us. I don't like it. Maybe it's just because I'm a Giants fan, or just because Pickens coming over, we don't know what he's going to do as a number 2. He's only ever been a number 1. Okay. All right. Moving on. New York Giants. Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, Zach Pascal, Smith Marset, Theo Johnson, Daniel Bellinger, Chris Manhertz. Okay. So this group is carried by Neighbors. Wan'Dale Robinson's a good slot receiver. Darius Slayton's a good outside receiver. Jalen Hyatt hasn't lived up to his hype. They're going to go in elite skills. I think they're going to nestle here, just on the fact that I like the complementary pieces better than the Jaguars, and I think Thomas and Neighbors, you can compare them. So I think it's kind of a wash. But when you look at Robinson, Slayton, Johnson, Flash, Bellinger's a good, a 10 and 2, excuse me. I think I like what they have better than the Jaguars at this moment. The Jaguars have more talent, don't get me wrong, with Hunter and what Strange showed last year. Their potential is greater, but at this point, I think the Giants, Robinson and Slayton, have shown more. So for that reason, I'm going to put them right here where they are, because I don't think I can put them above the Dolphins, even if Hill is looking to have lost potentially a step. All right, Philadelphia Eagles. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, Johnny Wilson, Terrace Marshall, Anais Smith, Dallas Goedert. Okay, so they are trying to stop us. I think the big theme for trying to stop us right now is that you have 2 top receivers with a decent, or with a good tight end. I think that's the big difference maker here. A.J. Brown is clear number wide receiver 1. Devontae Smith has an argument with T. Higgins for the best wide receiver 2. I will take the Bengals over the Eagles. I like Gesicki a little bit better than Goddard. Yeah, I like that. And I kind of like the Bengals' depth as well. Burton and Eo Savage is better than Dotson and Wilson and Marshall in them. Okay, moving on to the Commanders. Where are they at? There they are. Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel Sr., Noah Brown, Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, Michael Gallup, shout out to him, Zach Ertz. Okay. It's hard to tell because Deebo Samuel hasn't played in that offense, and he is a very certain type of receiver, but I think they're going to go here. No, they have to go. I'm going to drop the Raiders. Okay. I'm going to put the Commanders here. I like McLaurin. I would prefer Thomas and Neighbors over them. Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz. Yeah. I like the way they're settling in there. If Deebo Samuel integrates in and is what he was 2-3 years ago with the Niners, that pushes this group a lot higher. But they also lost De'Ami Brown. Ertz is in his mid-30s. Yeah, I like them there. All right. NFC North, starting us off, Chicago Bears. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden III, Zacchaeus. This is Duvernay, Komet, Loveland. Okay, so they're in elite skills. They push above these guys. They're nestling in this region. I think above the Texans is an easy call. 2 tight ends, 2 receivers. Burden, I like Burden, but he's a rookie. Burden fits what Johnson had in St. Brown with the Lions so well that it's hard to not look at that and be like, well, that's definitely going to work out. Burden fell to them in the second round. But at the same time, I don't value rookies like that. Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland, well, great to have 2 tight ends. Loveland's a rookie. I think I'm going to keep them there. This could be the group that I am most wrong about, in the fact that they could push very high if Burden and Loveland are what they could potentially be. Adunze keeps developing and DJ Moore just does DJ Moore things. That's going to be interesting to see. Okay, Detroit Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Tim Patrick, Raymond. They drafted Tesla, Laporta Wright at tight end. Okay. So this is an interesting group. I think I'm going to put them at try and stop us at the end on the strength of St. Brown, Williams, and Laporta. Tim Patrick also flashed. Tesla is a great deep threat. His measurables are insane between his speed, his athleticism, and his height. I believe he's also 6'4". Jameson Williams, if he can stay healthy, is a fantastic wide receiver too, and a Z receiver. Tim Patrick showed that he can be their X receiver if a guy like Tesla can't step up. And then Laporta's just Laporta. All right, I like that. Green Bay Packers. Jaden Reed had a good season for them last year. Matthew Golden, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks, Tucker Kraft. Okay. So the thing with the Packers is Matthew Golden has a similar situation to what Xavier Worthy had last season, which, if you're not aware, Worthy didn't run good routes coming into the season. He didn't run good routes. He didn't react to the press well, a little undersized, more of a speed than quickness. Obviously, he has the quickness, but it'll be interesting to see if the Packers are able to develop that into something similar or better. And then Jaden Reed, he played well, but not like a true wide receiver one. Their depth at receiver is crazy, though. It needs to stay healthy. Watson's got injury problems. Okay. I view them similar to the Texans, so I'm going to put them right there. I like Collins as a true number one better than Reed, so I'll put them right below them. And I think I'm pretty happy with that. Okay. Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor, Rondale Moore, TJ Hawkins, and Josh Oliver. Okay, so this is a early contender for top dog. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Like I said, with the Eagles, Bengals, Cowboys, Vikings, there's an argument they could be the top wide receiver duo. You throw TJ Hawkinson in there, and there's of the teams that we've talked about so far, there's no team that can match the talent that those top 3 have. Rondale Moore's got some speed beneath that. Josh Oliver is a good tight end too. I think this is a clear top dog for now. We'll see how the rest of the divisions go, but I don't think you could give, and for a young quarterback, I don't think you could have a better pass catching group than what the Vikings have right now. I mean, what else is there to say? All right, moving on to the NFC South. Atlanta Falcons, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, McLeod, Hodge, Washington, Agnew. Kyle Pitts dealing with an injury at this moment in time. All right, let's move on to the NFC South and the Atlanta Falcons. Drake London, Darnell Mooney, McLeod, Agnew, Pitts, who's dealing with an injury at this moment. Okay. It's hard. London had a good year, really good year. I think it's hard for me to get them out of perfectly average with how poorly Pitts has played to his own standards. And I don't like the depth here at all. I think I like them there. The talent that London, Pitts, and Mooney have, I think keeps them above the Raiders, but doesn't push them past the Chargers. I do like Pitts better than Disley, but I think McConkey and London, talent-wise, come to a halt. And then the rest of the receivers the Chargers have beat what the Falcons have pretty easily. Okay. Carolina Panthers. T-Mac, Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, the return of Hunter Renfrow, David Moore, Tommy Tremble. Okay, so their tight ends are terrible. The receivers are okay. I'm going to put that poor quarterback. I will say, if T-Mac can step it up, then, this looks a lot better, but can he be a true number one right out of the gate? We'll see. There were questions about his explosiveness and his top end speed. Now, he's not a burner, so that's not exactly what he is as a player, but at the same time, it's a little bit of what this team needs. I don't know. We'll see how it all comes together. They have 3 slot receivers in Thielen, Coker, and Renfrow, which is interesting. And then T-Mac and Legette on the outside. That should be pretty good. We'll see how it all shakes out. All right. New Orleans Saints. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Brandon Cooks, Bub Means, Kevin Austin Jr., Cedric Wilson Jr., Juwan Johnson, Taysom Hill. Okay. This is, I think, I'm probably going to end up moving this list around. We have a lot of teams all segmented in the middle here, but I'll get to that when we get to the end. Olave's got injury issues. Shaheed has injury issues. Brandon Cooks has injury issues. Juwan Johnson's got injury issues. Taysom Hill is not exactly a tight end. He's just an offensive weapon, basically. Actually, I am going to just flat out put them down there. I think the situations in New England and New Orleans kind of mirror themselves, except Diggs is coming off of an injury and dealing with a off the field issue, whereas Olave is just dealing with a buttload of injuries that he's coming off of. Yeah, I think I like that. Yeah, I think I like that. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. They drafted Ibuka. They got McMillan, Shepard, Trey Palmer, Kate Auden. Okay, so this is up here. I have them jumping these two and probably nestling right there. So if Chris Godwin wasn't coming off an injury, I would probably have them climb higher. I think because Godwin's coming off an injury, Ibuka looks like a potentially great wide receiver too. And then even needing to be that. But he's a rookie. And then McMillan looked nice. Palmer's looked nice. Auden had a great season last year. Yeah, I think I'd put them there. There is an argument to push them higher, but I think with Godwin coming off an injury, Ibuka not showing anything in the league yet, I think this is a good place to put them. And I can be happy with that. Okay. Arizona Cardinals. Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, Zay Jones, Trey McBride, who helps to push this team up. So Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't show what these two receivers up here showed in Thomas and Neighbors as a rookie, but he still got the talent, and Trey McBride is a top 5 tight end. I think for that reason, there's not much else. At least those other teams had something else. The reason they jumped these teams is because McBride and Bowers, you could argue about who you would want at receiver, but the Raiders don't have a Marvin Harrison talent. So they have to be up here. So I think there. I think McLaurin and Samuel and Ertz beats Harrison and McBride. I think the Cardinals just missing the depth. Yeah, I think they're just missing the depth. That's really all you can say bad. All right. Los Angeles Rams, Nakua, Adams, Atwell, Whittington, Higbee, Ferguson. Okay. So they climb up here. I think they sit here. They compare well to the Bears in the fact that they have. I do think Nakua was better than DJ Moore. Davante Adams at this point in his career probably. I think I'm gonna have them jump the Bears. Like I said, the Bears' talent at the end of the day, just on paper, might be better than the Rams, but the Rams players have proved it more. I don't think Adams is completely washed, so he'll put up some stats. And then Higbee and Ferguson have potential to be a really good two tight end set, and Atwell has flashed as well. So is Whittington. Excuse me. Okay, I like that. All right. San Francisco 49ers. Ayuk, Jennings, Pearsall, Robinson, Kittle. Okay. They sit up here in elite skills. They jump these teams. I think they end up there. Jennings flashed a lot of potential last year. You might have missed it because the 49ers ended up being bad, and Jennings had his own injury issues. Pearsall, it's hard to think about what his rookie year was last year because he dealt with the fact that he was shot off the field, and that put him behind. But George Kittle had a fantastic season at tight end. So I think with the combined talent, they push to the middle of the pack there. Okay, last team, Seattle Seahawks. Smith and Jigba, Kupp, Valdez Scantling, Bobo, Fant, Arroyo. Okay. I think I'm going to put them here. But no, I'm going to put them here. I like Smith and Jigba and Kupp. They kind of do the same thing, so it'll be interesting to see how they all work together. Valdez Scantling was a nice get as a deep threat, and I loved the draft pick of Arroyo. He's got a lot of talent. He's a little raw. He came out probably a year early, but still a second round player, so a lot of talent there. Yeah. Okay, I don't think there's much more to say about the Seahawks. Okay. That is going through each team. Now we need to split them up. I think this very clearly puts the Panthers as the worst. I think I'm going to move the Titans down. I only really feel comfortable. Oh, do I though? I think I'm only comfortable doing that. I do think the Jets can move down. I think it's a good bottom half. I think I am going to move the Ravens and the Chiefs up. And then no. Do I move the Cardinals down here? I think so. I think their depth just doesn't give it to me. Okay. Those changes, I like the way this landed a lot better. I think this just goes to show the talent that is in the NFL right now at the wide receiver and tight end position. So, yeah, I'm very comfortable to go from top down. I'm very comfortable with the Vikings where they are. I'm also comfortable with the Bengals and the Eagles being the runner-ups there. I think I do feel better moving the Ravens and the Chiefs up, creating that separation. Moving the Titans down. See, the only real change that I could make here would be if I move the Browns down, I have to move down the Patriots, and then I can take the Steelers and the Colts, and then call that the list. It is kind of being a little harsh, but I do kind of like that. I do like that. Okay, that is our list. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a comment on what you think of the list. I'd love to be able to have conversations down there in the comments. If you like this video, give it a like, subscribe to Ballhawk Sports Media for more weekly videos, and I will see you next week.